Hello everyone, am I audible? Confirm in chat. Okay, so let me just share my screen. We had seen the deployment in EC2, right? The Flask API. Let me just search with syllabus. AWS syllabus. Okay. So on the fifth week, what we have is VPC, which we have already saw on Elastic. Just one. Okay, so we will be seeing about the Docker. Even the multi-cloud approach, we have already seen about the Cloud Run and other thing, right? And Express, we already compared everything. So moreover, this week will be around Docker only. That is also not much. Today we'll be almost completing everything. The last 2 days we'll be keeping regarding the doubts, query and everything. Okay, so Chris, so before starting, please take some time to discuss about the project. A lot of doubts are there. Yes, ask your doubts. Whatever you have doubts, please write in chat so that we can discuss right away. I'm waiting for your questions. Write your queries in the chat. About the project, you'll have to discuss with Samir. Samir will be assigning all those projects. I'm just an instructor here. I'll be just going through the projects and everything. The project assignment will be done by Samir. For related to project assignment, you can ask in group, tag Samir for that. For any queries related to the course or project requirements, you can write the queries here. We can discuss those. Chris, first up, people have educated in which making the project is not are there any point to which services are mandatory to use from AWS? Chris, just understand in this. Suppose that you have a application, right? AWS is nothing just a cloud provider which provides functionalities to deploy your application into production, right? It's pretty simple, straightforward thing. Now, if you suppose that you have a project which requires S3, so in that case, you are bound to use AWS. But if your project says that you need to deploy your application into production, that doesn't says that either you need to use S3 only. You can use other services, right? So I'll just give you an idea about these things. Although, please confirm with Sami that is it required about the AWS part in the project? Because if you see, if there is mention that deploy in AWS, it means you will have to use a specific service there inside AWS. If you are using Google Cloud or something, you can use that as well. But every cloud provider, either it's AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, or any of those services cloud providers, will require a credit card or a debit card which has Mastercard or Visa card basically. Only from this to Mastercard and Visa card is supported for a verification purpose. You are not bound to pay them because they haven't generous free tier, either it is Retail Ocean or anyone else. But you will need to have a card to verify that account. So if a project mentions that you need to use a cloud provider, you'll have to you will have to get any of the card to activate AWS. The second point, if your project mentions that you just need to deploy something, so for front end deployment, you can go with Vercel. You haven't called Render or anything else. So there are platforms called render. And so this is also, you can get started with free. There are certain limitations. There are different products. So you get most of the things here. If your product mentioned that you just need to deploy the code into production, you can use it. If there is mentioned about the specific services of AWS, you will need to get an AWS account. The problem with educate account, you won't be able to do all those things because there are certain labs you need to go through. Only that is possible. You'll need to arrange a card. If you're going into cloud, basically you'll need a card to use the cloud. It is as simple as that. Because if you're learning cloud, you'll have to spend some of the money there. Although there is a free tier, but there will be a certain billing for, even it is like 20 rupees or 50 rupees, either for VPC or something. There will be a certain charges there. Okay, so you'll need to get a card to have an AWS account. If your project mentioned that you need to use a specific AWS service, it means you'll have to arrange anywhere an AWS account and try to deploy there. If your project doesn't mention that you need to use AWS, it just mention that to deploy on cloud, you can simply use any of those free providers like Render or Railway. So, or if you need to deploy just an API or something, you can use Vercel. If you've seen projects, I don't know if these are the only projects. So if you see that deploying a MERN stack application into AWS keys, and even the second project also you need to use Lambda and API gateway. So it specifically says that you need to use cover the AWS service. So anyways, you'll have to arrange a card from somewhere and get an AWS account. He said using just Docker will be valid. Docker is there in the syllabus that just understand creation one of the things. You are able to get the Docker container running, but anyways, you'll have to deploy that. You won't get the production URL from the Docker, right? Just understand that way. You haven't Docker desktop or something, right? Docker is nothing, just a build tool. It's not a complete environment or in production environment. It's just a build tool for you. You can just create an image there and make it there. Anyways, even like suppose that there is an EC2 virtual machine, you create an EC2 instance, you will install Docker there, and then like create an Docker image and then run that image as a container. So it's a build tool, nothing else. Docker is not a server. The other query is AI image recognition, sir. I am making a project through AWS service S3 Lambda Amazon recognition. Or should I make different project because it is not using languages or packages that much like web project? There's no issue about that. Basically, you see, your main course is around AWS only, so you'll be using AWS services. So, like majorly, the major part will be revolving around AWS only because the main course is if AWS, your main services will be revolving around AWS. Either you'll be using S3, either you'll be using Lambda, API Gateway, EC2, VPC. So all those services you'll be using in your project. So you'll need to have an AWS account. That's what I just said. Even I just one of you had contacted me in the WhatsApp. I had already told them to arrange a card and get a normal AWS account. There's no other way you can learn. If you have AWS account, your complete course has been kind of wasted if you can understand, because there is no outcome you would be getting without practice. Manu saying, sir, should I continue this project? Yes, of course you can continue this image recognition. Everyone try to arrange a card from somewhere, from your parents. They maybe having Mastercard or Visa card. Even Rupee card shall work in some of the cases. It's just your debit card must have an international payments and domestic payments enabled. So just check with that, verify your details in the AWS, create a normal account, and then use the services. Any other questions? What if I just deploy it in EC2? It is also covered and deployment too. So for EC2, you will be requiring a AWS account. If you're asking for AWS account, you will need to have an for that, right? And the other question is, what if I just deploy in EC2? It is also covered and deployment too. So you will need to have some kind of project which will be deploying in EC2, right? You'll have to write code just like we had created Node Express or in Python Flask, right? So you'll have kind of some of the code level things as well. Is it possible to do this in Educate deployment? Chris, that's what I'm explaining to you. Educate account is only for learning purpose, which is specifically to courses. I guess in the same way you would have received AWS limited access. If you have a course within LPU, sometimes they provide their organization account access, limited access. So in that also you get a small access running spinning a EC2 container for a limited time. So it's kind of a lab. You do not get a complete access in Educate account. So it won't be possible in AWS Educate. In lab, basically you spin a small server container and then it automatically shut down after the lab is completed. You'll have to use a normal AWS account. Any other questions? Drop your questions quickly so that we can also proceed with session. We'll cover all the queries. Any other questions or shall we continue with session? Question, shall I move with session? Regarding project topic or anything related to service, please connect with Samir. I can only guide you through the project requirements. That if you have a like project title, you get project topic, and then I can guide you through that. Abhishek sir, I joined late. Can you repeat? We are just discussing about a project, Abhishek, nothing else. It's just a mandatory thing that you must have an active AWS account to complete your project. As your main course is subject to AWS, without AWS account, you won't be able to complete anything. What you have got with Samir, because see, I am not aware of projects. What are the requirements? What are the topics provided to you? I'm not aware about that. Anything related to project topics, please discuss with Samir. I can only explain about the queries related to services or the course. Regarding the project topics, please connect with Samir in the group. Or I guess either it's a common project. I do not know about that. How Samir has been assigning the project. So please connect with him for the project topic, what you're going to build. Any other questions? Okay, let's move with the session. So there is in Docker basic Docker container. So let's see about the Docker first of all. Uh, I hope you have installed the Docker desktop and created a Docker account. So please open your Docker container, Docker desktop, and you must have an UI something like this. Once you have an active running Docker desktop, okay, guys. Sir, I have configured S3 and Lambda function and API gateway. I want to take the output which is coming from Amazon recognition. How can I make it to display users? You can return from the Lambda, right? Once you suppose that just an understanding. If I just say, so you have a function, right? Lambda function you have execution is from API gateway. It means you have a REST API. So once you have REST API, basically you're having a post request, uploading image or something, whatever image recognition we are working. Uh, API gateway calls Lambda, your AWS recognition work, and Lambda shall return the response, right? So it's completing REST API basically. Your whole thing works around the REST API. You can simply post the request, uploading image. You are processing with the Lambda and AWS recognition. Once you have the result, just send the response back. Pretty straightforward. And if you want to make something for front end, you can use anything. I'm getting logs in CloudWatch. CloudWatch is a different thing. You're storing logs, but either you need to send the response, right? You'll have to capture the response in Lambda. Once you're triggering the AWS recognition, same way recognition will give you a result about that as well. So you can return the result in the Lambda function. Like suppose that, just understanding this, right? So let me just open one of those classes, Flask. So like we had created a REST API in Flask. So we had this route, right? Like index route and this API. So we had already created a kind of routes now. So once you have that routes, simply it's nothing you are deploying to Lambda. Here in the routes, you may be accessing this AWS recognition. So simply just give them an option. Or suppose that it's taking a long time. So maybe there would be duration about that, right? And if it is not returning an exact result, so you can use a database or something that once you upload an image, upload an image or whatever you are sending, store it in S3, do work in between, store a document ID, send it to user. So if something is taking a longer time, like 2 to 3 minutes, in that scenario, you don't want to wait users. So just send an ID to a user, and user can do a query after that. Maybe like in this way, recognize there will be a post request in that scenario. In after that, they can get the result by like this plus ID. So you can create this kind of a REST API. Sure, in our project, we will have to use all services mentioned in the syllabus. It's not required, Shyam. I guess in the topic will be mentioned what services you need to use. please ask Samir about the project topics. If you haven't received, just ping Samir regarding the syllabus, sorry, about the project. So either he will provide individually the topics for project, or maybe there might be a common project as well. So just ask Samir. Krish, he has left it on us. We can make anything. Then build anything regarding AWS, whatever you feel good. I would suggest deeply that please make a good project which involves most of the services. Why I'm telling this? Because if you have learned in this 1 month about AWS, you need to see the result as well. Because see, I'll be very frank with this. If you are seeing AWS cloud as an like a normal course that you're just passing on summer term, it won't give you any results. Neither it will help you anywhere. But if you are diving dive into this cloud computing and everything, it might be a career path for you as well. If you're seeing as a career path, I would highly suggest go deeper with AWS, see what are the services we had, and then use all those. Because once you start practicing, then only you can be able to do all those things. Because AWS cloud or any cloud, they are very much more complex when you start getting into it, and you need to have a very good understanding about pricing, how pricing it will involve everything. Like VPC, if you just create an VPC and left it, you might get a huge billing for that. So you will need to understand about what pricing it will require, how services is going to be used, what controls, what permissions is required. So if you're choosing cloud computing as a career path, I'll suggest go deep dive, learn each and everything, and implement that. If you're saying as in just passing the summer term, just build a basic project. Because what I've seen the past experience as well, like most of the students just go for the passing on the summer term, they have to apply for a course, they choose anything, and then they take the certificate and they never look back. But if you are seriously concerned about career path in cloud computing, just do a good project because it will be betterment for you only. Other questions? Man is saying after this course, can I go for AWS practitioner certificate? Of course, you can go for that, Manu. Because see, I guess we had only 5 weeks, 3 days in each week means 15 days, and that too only 1 hour 30 minutes. So we had hardly like 22 hours something. So of course, learning AWS is not possible. Even like covering all those topics we had tried to cover up, but that was completely basics, I guess, because you currently do not know how to write code completely everything, right? So it will take time to first test with the codes, understand the technology, what are the tech stack, how you need to deploy the particular tech stack. As you have seen, I am well experienced with the Node Express. Okay, because I've been working with Node Express and Spring Boot from the very start. I haven't worked with Python that much. So that's why it was a bit of difficult for me to work upon the Python. But I had to switch to Python from Node Express. Why? Because you were compatible with Python. So we faced multiple issues. We fixed that as well, right? So it's a part of learning that you understand there are different scenarios of deploying different tech stack. There might be different scenarios for deploying a different technology. Might be like Python would be easy for you to deploy. Same way, if you go with Spring Boot, that might be a bit difficult to deploy. So there are certain scenarios for that. Okay. Any other questions? We move with Docker. Okay. Uh, we have this basics app folder app.py. We had docker p, I guess, docker file and then requirement.txt, right? So first of all, let's fix some of those things that about deployment. Once we have all those routes, what we can just say, just right page home. Welcome to home page. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay, then in the about page, this is about page. Okay, then requirement.txt, you can simply write flask something. No need for version. It will install the latest version by default. Okay, so once you have these two, then in the docker file, okay, one more query. Sir, I tried to create an AWS account, but my card is not getting accepted. It is showing that automatic payments e-miner did not support RuPay and MX card. What should I do to resolve this issue? So that's why I said either MasterCard or a Visa card is required for this. I don't know about the India if you can get a virtual card or something. I would suggest you can open a account with this any online accounts and they will give you a virtual card. Okay. You can create any zero balance account like Neo or something. So these are the kind of neo banks. They can give you a virtual card. There are complete virtual KYC, online KYC and something. They have a zero balance account. They have a Visa card. It support everything. So maybe like you can try this, but I'm not sure what you should do in this case. But a Visa card or Mastercard is required, which support the subscription payments. So you can check this with this Neo. I have zero balance account with Fireman. You can check this. There are multiple zero balance accounts, either Jupiter, Neo, or even there are most of them who provide these virtual cards within like instantly. They provide most of the time once your KYC is done. So you can see those, and those cards are accepted by AWS, I guess. Can I make project anyways and deploy it in Vercel or something? Asta, the point is you are working on AWS. The main course is around AWS. So you'll have to deploy your code in, you'll have to use AWS services. Like building some kind of a basic REST API and deploying it in Vercel, that doesn't mean that you have learned cloud computing, because in Vercel deploying is kind of an 1 minute thing. You can simply connect with GitHub and then link it to Vercel and it will deploy. So there is not kind of much AWS work around that. So your course is basics on the AWS cloud computing. Even the course name is AWS cloud computing. How you can avoid that? My point is that. Okay. So let's come back to this. I'll create create like if name is equal to main, and then app.run on 00, so that whatever the host is there, my app should run on that, not my defined URL. Okay, and then just define the port of like 5000. So let's try running this. Now access, and if I try to now access this, we are getting this. Now let's try running on the Docker container, right? So it's working. Let's change the Docker file. In the Docker file, you'll have to use a package and build first of all an image. So we'll use like from Python. We had which email? Let's see first of all Docker image Python. Most probably we'll be using the Slim version. That is, I guess, Python 3.11 Slim. Yeah, the Slim Sleep usually works. So we'll choose like 3.11 Slim. Okay. So we have done this base image. I'll just also add this here. Base image. Then we'll have the working directory. Working directory. Just set the work dir and the path for your project. So simply you can set as /app. Then what you need to copy. So we need to copy our requirements.txt for installation. Requirements.txt. Okay. So and then deploy in the base. Now you can run. I need to install all those. No, so Python install this is requirements.txt. Also add a no cache. So it will be much better if you need no cache directory. So once you have this installation of the dependencies, then copy app.py to the base directory, then expose 5000 port. We are using 5000 port. So we'll expose the port for that. Now we need to have a command. So we'll run like Python and the app.py. So we have the now Docker file and we have this. So let's try now creating a Docker build. So Docker build, I can just write Flask Docker app or whatever you need. It will just install all those images and everything. Once you have this, I can start running. Let me just see if image has been created or not. So in image there is running Flask Docker app, right? Now I can simply run the Flask Docker app with me. Once this is done, now it will start running on the address. Now running on all address, I can just simply use this, and now my API is working. Now let's try deploying in the EC2. Once again, Docker is not a server or something. It's just a build tool. Okay, so now we can use this to run. Now let's create an EC2 container. Let's log in into AWS. Okay. So let's go to EC2, go to instances. If you already have an instance, you can use that. If you don't have, you can click on launch instance. Click on Flask, select Ubuntu, create a new pair, Flask, with the Docker, create a new pair, save it, allow HTTP, stop allow HTTP, launch instance. We'll today also see about this Qualify. because it will be a good thing for you if you start using Coolify. It's kind of an open source alternative to Vercel or something. Okay. So once we have instance running, let's create an elastic IP if required. Allocate elastic IP. Let's name as Flask Docker. Go to this associate elastic IP, choose an instance, choose a private, one associate. Okay, once this is done, click on instance. It's on running state. Let's change the Docker PM. Let's move into the same directory. It will be easy for us. Or let's keep it in the C drive. Let's go into the properties, go to security, click on advanced, click on change permissions, disable inheritance, click on add, select a principal, add your PC name. I have done. Click on full control, click on OK, add on apply, click on OK, OK. Once this is done, now let's connect with the SSH. Okay, so for SSH, click on connect, copy this and connect. Click, type yes. So we are now into the SSH. Now we need to install the Docker and all those things, right? So what you can do is sudo apd update. We had already done. While adding security groups, do you allow access from anywhere? Yes. If you do not have a static IP, then you'll have to select all those three options: HTTPS, HTTP, and SSH. I guess SSH is selected by default and set to anywhere. You can do that. If you have a static IP address from your provider, broadband provider, in that case, you can have your whitelisted IP. If you do not have, then you can use select from anywhere. I also suggest one of those one more thing here after once the deployment is done. Okay, like I suggested about Coolify, na, I'll also suggest one more service. Let's now install the Docker. Sudo apt install docker.io. Okay, once this is done, then write sudo install Docker. Let's check Docker PS permission denied sudo Docker PS. Okay, no container is running. Perfect, means Docker has been installed and been running. Now we can say sudo enable sudo systemctl. Sir, you did not allow custom TCP port 5000 security port. It is not needed. We'll allow that. Even you can proxy that with Nginx if you need. Because if you had remembered, we had used Nginx to set up that proxy. We'll be for now we'll be using that. Of course, I will just show you about all those things. So systemctl enable Docker, and then you can change the user mod for that, so that we will be accessing without the sudo. Okay, Docker and the current user. Okay. Now if I try to run without sudo, okay, I'll have to restart, I guess. Let me just restart with this. I guess I'll have to reboot the instance for that. Okay, not required for the reboot, just log out in, again re-log in. Okay, once we have this, now just copy this code that we have. Copy classes. We had this flask, right? This is the code, I guess. So for this, we'll use SCP to copy all our folder, basically. Okay, we are already in the current folder. First of all, just move out with this current directory. Okay, now I can copy that. Okay, SCP, then the path for my class API, right? Class docker.pm, copy class.pm, then the directory which is our class docker d classes flask. So I need to copy the flask folder, then where I want to keep it, just copy this, our address, and then backtick we need to use. I do not have a backtick in my keyboard. Tilde symbol. I don't know why my keyboard doesn't support in that configuration. That's why it's an issue. Now let's copy all our files. It copied our app.py docker file and requirements.txt. Perfect. So once we have all those files in our SSH, now let's go back to terminal and SSH. Connect with this. Now let's type ls. We have a folder of flask, cd flask. We have all those files here. Perfect. So now we have all those files. Now we can simply build our Docker image here. So we can write Docker build. Let me move up this and just zoom in a bit. Okay. So Docker build -t. Then I can just say flask Docker app, which we used in our local as well. Whatever you want to rename, you can do that. The legacy builder is deprecated and will be removed in future release. Use build X component. Okay, it's going to be deprecated. For now, you can use still. Running pip as the root user can result in broken permissions and conflict behavior with the system package manager. Exit account to use a virtual environment. Okay, so for Docker, I guess it won't be an issue. Docker and the port of 5000 flask Docker app. Okay, it's now running. Now let's add the security group. Security group we have. Click on this. Expose the 5000. Add all custom TCP 5000 from anywhere. Save rules. Okay, now let's copy this address with the 5000 port, and it's working with our Docker, right? So when we had set up our Python, if you had remembered that there was a several process involved in that, right? That we had to create a virtual environment. In that virtual environment, we had to set up all those things. While set up with the Docker, we defined all those things in Docker file, and Docker handled everything for us, right? So that's how it makes an easy for you. We had done same thing in our Windows machine. It worked same in the Ubuntu machine. So there is nothing called like it works on my machine, it doesn't work on my machine. So it won't be happening with that. Okay. So that's the thing. If you want to set up this proxy, you want to avoid this proxy, you can set up an Nginx. Rich is asking, can you repeat Nginx? So Nginx, if I just see about in Nginx, what we do set up a proxy for this. So suppose that you are accessing with IP and 5000, what I will say that I don't want to expose 5000. So Nginx will set up a configuration in our backend in our server, and it will proxy to 5000 port. So internally, it accepts as an 80 port, which is default the IP address. It will proxy to 5000 port. So you don't have to expose the 5000 port. Instead, you can simply proxy that. So in that way, you'll be able to do that. Currently, I won't be doing that because it will be again a long process for that. Currently, I'll have to focus on other things. You can check my previous lecture where we deployed this Python application that I had shown you about the Nginx. Okay, that's not much of complicated. There are only one of these files configuration you need to do for the Nginx, and then you can work. Sir, if any Docker image is built in Linux and I'll share it with to someone, can it run on Windows? What it run? That's why Docker was created for this only. So configuration for different things might be different, right? In this scenario, Docker will be compatible for everything. So basically, what happens? You not share the Docker image. Instead, you share the code only, but you define all those configuration in the Docker file. That what image you need to use, what directory you need to use, requirements and everything. In this scenario, suppose that if I just say I do not need my Python to be installing locally. Instead, I can define in Docker file everything, and in Docker it will be installed. It won't be installed in my local machine. Suppose that I want to install without anything locally, I can simply define in Docker. And if any code updates, I would like to update in Docker image and rebuild. So in that way, you can run your complete project inside the Docker. Docker is just a build tool that focuses on moreover the machine only. That if you are working on either Ubuntu, Mac, or Windows, it was the same way. Okay. Even in the Windows, if you ever downloaded Docker Desktop, you would see about the WSL. Without that, it won't run. So it Windows subsystem for Linux. So basically, it works on the same way. Okay. So we had already tested about this. For Nginx, you can go with my previous lectures. You can see that there's nothing much more, but in simple Nginx configurations, you need to do that. Okay. So we have deployed with the Docker. There's nothing right. If you have seen, it was just two steps we used, and it was there. Now, what happens if you want to set up the CI/CD pipeline or anything else? So it's moreover a complicated process for that. So in that scenario, I can install the Coolify as well, and Coolify will give me much more options for that. So for installation, what is the code? Self-host Coolify installation. So this is the command we need to run in our search. Okay, so I'll just go this again. Search. Okay, let's install Okay, you'll need to have like disk space of 30 GB. I had set for 8 GB, right? So prefer having 30 GB storage. You can get it for free. Now let's see if they are able to install. The storage currently it's 8 GB, right? Is it possible to upgrade to 30 GB? Modify. Okay. Let's see if it is installs or not. It takes around 5 minutes something to install the Qualify. So currently we are managing everything from CLI, right? So what Qualify does, it gives you a web UI for everything. You will be able to install you can add like Postgres database, Redis or something. If you want to have CI/CD pipeline, you will be able to do that as well. So there are most of the configuration available in the Qualify. Let's see in the Docker what it says before you begin a VP server dedicated server virtual machine does require and it has access on those configurations. We already have CPU core 30 GB of free space. It is coming probably on an SSD with lower specs than those mentioned above, but we recommend slightly higher minimum requirements. They say that 8 GB average usage of 3.5 for CPU cores. If you want to run Qualify, I would highly suggest to go with Hetzner because they have the higher compute in the less pricing, where in the EC2 you might get into billing because in T2 micro it's very less, I guess it's one vCPU. Let's see. Okay, waiting for to qualify diameter grade until then it's job for you. Let's wait for a minute to see if it installs or not. It's taking a bit of time. I guess usually it's due to the less vCPU and less RAM. Configuring of course very less the free tier. In this instance, T2 microwave, right? One vCPU, that's why it's a bit of slow. Let's see any updates or not. Still taking a bit of time. Oh, sorry. Installation method, we have a quick installation, manual installation. Simply we just run this call command. Okay, so when visit this URL, you'll write a registration page with the first admin account. Oops. Immediately access after installation. If someone else accesses the registration page for you, they might get full control for your server. Of course, we'll be the first users. Is it done or not? Let's try accessing with this IP and 8080. We'll have to expose this as well in the security inbound rules. Already have 80 port. Although it will proxy, I guess. Let's see cloud usage, self-hosting, self-hosted is most of the person. So we've already done this. I guess it's not installed yet, that's why. It still needs a bit of time. Why it's taking longer. Maybe due to the configuration. It's not yet completed or what. It's not in canceling. Let's try again console. Instance connect. I guess it has been crashed. Let's see the monitoring status. Yes, it crossed the 50%. That's why it crashed. It's below the requirements. That's why it won't work in the T2 micro first because it's an basic server. For Qualify or something like this, you will need at least 2 vCPU. So I would suggest going with the paid in the EC2 because it's a bit of high pricing. If you are actually going with the Schoolify, you can use services of Hetzner. You can get of $20 credit there in the Hetzner. If you go with Qualify, here if you see, you can get a credit of $20. You can rent a server which has like $5 a month pricing, and you can use that. Okay, so in that scenario, you'll be having two vCPU, 4 GB of RAM, 20 terabytes of storage. So you'll have a lot of more things. So in the basic shared vCPU, you can get easily install all those. These are the minimum requirements, right? So you can go with either this or this one, whatever you prefer. You can install this Qualify in there. In this instance, you'll be able to install Postgres. You can get all those things. If you see in the Qualify docs as well, it supports any language, any server, any use case, any service push to deploy from GitHub CI/CD, free hustle certificates, no vendor lock-in, automatic DB backups, backup data to S3 storage and everything. It's compatible to all those things. You can integrate the webhooks for CI/CD, then real-time terminal, collaborative, everything. You get most of the things. It's similarly to like Vercel, Netlify, whatever you get in the web UI. Because see, at the end, server is on the terminal access. All those services like Vercel or anything else, they have made a web UI for you to make it an ease of uploading your documents and all those projects, right? There's nothing different in that. Okay. Chris is having question. Okay, there's no new questions. So I guess about the Docker we already completed. What you want to learn? Because there is not much more to explain about Docker. It's simply just a build tool which we use, and we're already seen the steps to deploy in the EC2 container. About Nginx and custom domain SSL, we had already seen the past classes. For today, what you would like to learn? We have still like 25 minutes. Is there any topic you want to learn which is not included in syllabus, which are interested in? Even? Or like I would go with this multi-cloud. Even that also I've already taught. If still there are like 2 days left, what are you taking the next 2 days? Anyone, what you would like to learn? Is there any topics in the AWS or anything related to that? Krish, one question. Yes, please. If you have any queries, you can write in chat so that I can pick up from there. Write your queries in chat, Krish. Sir, is there any way to avoid making NAT gateways? Like it is needed for private subnet to protect me from incoming hazards. What if I create a public subnet and not allow incoming traffic? That way, I not want NAT gateway. Okay, just understand in this scenario about the NAT gateway, right? Once you create an VPC, you can have private subnet and public subnet. So anything which doesn't needs to be exposed to the internet, you can simply use that private subnets for that simply. Only the things like if you're deploying something, your like Docker image you public in the EC2, right? In that I can access the public subnet. I will require that, right? But if something is working on like you are worker you are being deployed in a container that doesn't require to be accessible on a public URL, in that scenario you can use this private subnet. It means it will be accessible within the AWS. It isn't accessible with your public. So for anything which you don't want to expose to user, simply use the private subnet. You get a lot of IPs, right? So you can use private subnets for which you not want to expose to internet. For if you want to expose to internet, you can simply use the public subnets. If you want to go with NAT, that is highly possible possibility, even suggestions, but I would not suggest going with the NAT because the main thing, if you understand, a reason behind going for a server is because of this only that you don't want the NAT. Else, if suppose in your current broadband provider, it's behind the net, that's why you have a dynamic IP address, right? But if you not have a NAT, you would be directly exposing your IP address to public, and if you would have running your any project inside your local, you can just share the IP address, and we would be able to access that project. So, not using NAT is a kindly much more efficient way to deploy your applications. But simply you can split subnets into two parts, public and private subnets. You can use private subnets for the services which doesn't require to have an internet access, and for public subnets you can use which requires internet access in that way. Okay. Let me just give you again an kind of an overview about the Docker, if you haven't understand till now. So, what is Docker and why we use it? First of all, so you can just understand with virtual machines versus containers. We have virtual machines, and it's a different thing compared to what we have in Docker. Docker is nothing, just a build tool, and you can use that build file to run inside any of those virtual machines, right? So, what is the benefit of Docker? It gives a portability, consistency, and isolation because you are running into isolated environment, right? So it's not affecting your main OS or something. So it's portability and consistency you can get between all of those, either it's Windows, Linux, Ubuntu, or even Mac. So it gives a consistency with that isolation. It's on the isolated environment. Then the core concepts about the Docker what we have, that is this images and containers. The images is basically the build file for that, and containers is basically that contains that build file, and it's running inside a container, which means like I had already explained about the Docker. It's kind of in ship where you have an applications running on different containers, and then if any containers goes off, another container already gets started for that. So that's how it works, containers and images. Then Docker files, we have already seen about the Docker file, how you define the base image, how you assign the working directory, how you copy the files, how you install all those libraries, dependencies for that particular project, and then run the command to start the server. So for that we have CLI commands. Now, when you create like a Docker container, you can simply either use a Python or Node.js for that in Docker. You can use public images from Docker app. So, if suppose that you want to run MongoDB and Postgres something inside Docker, you can do that as well. Okay. So again, then Dockerizing, how we do that? So suppose that we have this file we did in Python, right? So in the VS Code, we have this Docker file, and then we first of all build that within Docker, and then we expose this route, sorry, port what we want to access. Either it is 5,000 port or whatever you want to have that. Okay, and then mount if you need volumes or something, so you can do that as well, and then run the command. Then we have this Docker Compose as well if you need. So running multiple apps, it would be easier within the Docker Compose. Then that's a different way to deploy. Currently, we deployed simply with build and run, right? There's another way of Docker Compose as well. Then you can also have like configuring conditions while env files. There's also you can add env environment variables within the Docker container. Then we have this Docker secrets as well if you need for that environment variables. So we have Docker secrets. Then we have an networking Docker, which is kind of linking containers for your applications. You can link between multiple containers within the networking. Then Docker in CI/CD pipelines, we can use Docker with GitHub Actions or any other CI/CD pipelines. Okay. Then what is the use case for CI/CD? Basically, we are like building and pushing images automatically whenever a new code is submitted into the GitHub. So suppose that you have a GitHub account, you initialize the GitHub repository with this. Now you deploy the initial commit. Now suppose that what you want that if I update some of the code and push my code into GitHub, my new version shall be updated that as well. So you can connect with the webhook or something which shall trigger the again deployment, and it will build again with the latest code, and then automatically it will deploy all those changes. So Vercel was one of those popular providers who brought the CI/CD pipelines. There was earlier CI/CD pipelines, of course, but Vercel made it very popular within this because they made this process very easier. Okay. Now, for this, we have this multi-stage builds as well. So if you're seeing currently, like for a small application or something, it is a simple build, right? But when you build an enterprise scale applications, you do multiple steps for that. Suppose that once you in first step you only copy about the requirements and everything, then you install dependencies. In the second step, you may copying the files. In third step, you may be deleting some of those previous files, so in that way it works, right? So you can create multi-stage builds as well, optimizing image size build and productions you can have. You can reduce the image size for that. Then we also have an what are the best practices we follow for this that are minimize the base image. The less image size you have, the less efficient is the build to run on the containers. Then we preferring using non-root users scan images for vulnerabilities. If you see, basically in this image as well, there are three high vulnerabilities, right? So check how much vulnerabilities is also there for a certain image. You can check that as well. Then what the we for monitoring your CPU usage and everything, we have service called Prometheus or Grafana. Prometheus. So if you install this in your server, you will get all those monitoring for your server metrics. So if I just show you introduction overview, so kind of they give you complete monitoring services for your server. You can install Prometheus or even Grafana. So these are the all those monitoring tools. You can use all this to gain insights about your server. We are currently seeing in this EC2 monitoring stage, right? You can do this in the public without logging into AWS. You will be able to get all those details in the Prometheus and Grafana. So this give you complete functionalities about that. You can also store all those Docker logs for to check if anything has an error or something. In the Docker desktop, you already have a logs everything. If you see in the container inside this, all the logs are seen, right? So you can use these logs to check for errors or something if you need. Now, what the project ideas you can prefer with Docker? So basics you can deploy like a REST API only, like we built for Flask, right? You can build a Flask API and containerize that and then deploy what we did just today. You can also have an self-hosting analytics. So if you see like Plausible is their website, you can self-host this Plausible analytics deploy with Docker. So it's same kind of an Google Analytics alternative. So it's even says it's time to ditch Google Analytics and use the Plausible. You can self-host Plausible and then use that. In the pricing, they have a kind of lot of pricing, right? So you can simply deploy Plausible in your own server and use that. Okay, if you have your own choices, I would give you some of the ideas for this Docker and EC2. First idea would be going with the Node.js or Python, Flask API, whatever you prefer. Also use Postgres database or JSON, kind of a merge stack, or either you want to go for instead of Node.js, you want to use Python, you can use that as well. You can simply deploy kind of a to-do list or something. Use Docker Compose or Docker build for building an image, deploying your build as well. Now, the second idea would be to deploy self-hosting analytics like Plausible or something. The other topic you can get of password manager. So there are several password managers, right? So what you can do is you can build some kind of authentication layer which secures your passwords within that. You can store encrypted format passwords and that encryption can be the password can be decrypted when a user is authenticated. So you can use some kind of that self-host your own password manager. You can use any open source software as well if you need. I guess there is Bitwarden or something for password manager. Bitwarden. I've been using specs and a bit of troubleshooting. So the most trusted password manager, you can self-host all these things on your own Docker. Also, you can use for like deploy Selenium for browser testing inside Docker if you need. Then you can use Nextcloud within the Docker or Coolify. Of course, do not try Coolify with higher configurations because if you choose other than T2 Micro in AWS, you won't be getting much of the benefit inside that, and also they will leave a pricing for that. Okay, so most of the this was the overview about the projects and the Docker. What other things you would like to learn? For tomorrow sessions, I'll just prepare about the multi-cloud. Also, like there is nothing much to explain. We had already covered most of the things. I guess I'll just deploy. We have this Flask API, right? What I'll try to do tomorrow, we'll use elastic load balancing and try to perform a data attack in our server to see if how does it performs the load balancing. So suppose that if I just send a 10,000 requests at once, how load balancer will handle all those in the multiple servers. So we'll try to perform all those things in the tomorrow session or the after tomorrow. Okay, it's asking how does auto update works on apps and stuff. So basically, they trigger. If you see in the WhatsApp or something, it says that a new version is available. So for the traditional applications, what we see, everything is linked with Google Play, or if you are using iOS, it is linked with the App Store, right? So they gives an SDK within the Play Store to check if a new version is available, and you match with the current application version. And if it is greater than the current version, you can simply ask for an auto update. If user ticks for auto update, you can that application itself downloaded the new update. And if you not want to enable auto update, you can ask user to update that application to the current version. So if you see in the banking applications, usually they have this option that only the latest version will be accessible. If you have an old version, they won't allow you to access the application. So in the application, it works in that way. And in the website or something, you have this CI/CD pipeline. Basically, what happens? You deploy, you push your code into GitHub, and then connect it with your provider with this GitHub actions. That is what you want to perform with the webhook and everything. So once you upload your code into GitHub, it will trigger the endpoint of their deployment, like Versa or something. They have their endpoint about the GitHub. So once you have this code into your GitHub, and it will trigger whenever new commit is there, it will trigger to Versal or any other provider you have that a new commit has been created. Please deploy the current code. So in that way, every time a latest version gets deployed automatically without having a manual load on that. So for application, you check for the versions between App Play Store and the current app versions. In the website, you simply trigger an CI/CD pipeline. Any other questions? We still have 5 minutes. Anyone having any questions, please ask. because there is nothing much to give you lessons. We had already completed most of the topics about the load balancer. We'll try to see tomorrow. We'll create multiple servers and try to see how does it works between the load balancer. Any queries you can ask. That's it. You can leave the session if there is no any queries. Is it fine if I don't include Docker usage in my project? There is no issue about that, Abhinav. If someone has give you the independence of choosing a project, it means simply you can choose any of those AWS services or Docker if you want to include, you can use that. If you don't want to include Docker, you can simply exclude that. I feel I need help doing it during the making. Pranav, if I just suggest you, if you see the current session as the recording, it might help you. I guess there is only two commands to run within the Docker. The first time is installation, the other time is the build and run command. So I guess it is not much difficult. If you see the today's session recording, it will be good enough to deploy the applications. There are only two command. First of all, you need to have a Docker file. The other thing is you need to just run a command of build. The other command is to run. Within the like three step, you are able to run on the Docker. Docker is the most easiest method to deploy your applications. You not have to configure everything. If you had remembered, when we deployed Python Flask directly, we had installed multiple packages, then we created a virtual environment, then we deployed. In Docker, you just simply build a Docker image and tell Docker to run that image. So it's very straightforward using Docker. I would highly suggest you to go with Docker instead of deploying without Docker because it reduces the steps. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Sir, it is out of syllabus, but you know how to make files. What do you mean by this, Krish? What do you mean by this? I'm not able to understand your questions about this. If you're like asking about, I guess make file we usually use to kind of regarding the I guess about the compilation. I guess I'm not sure about make files, but the I think whatever I know about Makefile, it usually around the compilation of a large code base. Maybe it's something regarding that. I'm not sure. If you are meaning something else, you can just mention. Okay, so Pranav is also asking, sir, how Grafana is different from Prometheus. So currently, if you see, these are the most like commonly used together. But if you see the core difference, I guess Prometheus is like time series about the data collection, and Grafana is usually the data visualization, if you see. And the what the basics about is about like Prometheus usually scraps the matrix. Like if you I just said about this, right? In the EC2, you get the matrix about all those. In Prometheus, it scraps the matrix from services, and Grafana usually connects to Prometheus to many other sources. It's kind of an connections. Both have almost like similar services, but there are still some of the different things between Grafana and Prometheus. Usually, like we use both. Okay, so asking me make files, they are like commands and stuff for Docker and other things. Like you just run make up, it runs the Docker containers, build it for whatever you want it to do. Okay, in that format, you can define the configurations about the multi-step things, maybe. Okay, so about in this we can simply explain in that way. Okay, Pranav is asking like what is time series? So basically, time series kind of a sequence of data points. So if you understand in this way, what is the data between this current 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 hour, 5 minutes. So even data sets, right, between the time, every time, every minute or duration, between duration, you haven't data. So we simply tell is a time series is a sequence of data points. It is recorded in current interval. So you record your data in like intervals of like 1 minute, 5 minutes, something, and then you compare the data. So we usually call it in time series data. So if you see in like EC2 also na, it maybe checks after like 15 second or 20 second every time that how much usage has been done. So examples are usually the CPU usage or even the stock prices. If you see an example between like stocks, so usually they update in every 100 milliseconds. So in that way you can understand that is the time series data. It means whatever the data is coming in the set of interval time. So that is called as time series data. Okay, anyone else? I hope that everyone has already understood about the Docker. You can try using Docker, build an app inside the Docker, and try to use the Docker desktop and try to even deploy it in EC2. Okay, that's it for today's session. Then for projects, just clarify what you need to work on and confirm if that topic is okay or not. Okay, that's it for today's session. Thank you, everyone.